Since it first started tumbling into Ireland through the old pirate coves of West Cork and in the stomachs of drug mules coming from Miami, cocaine has become the drug of our nation. It has swept in like a blizzard, dusting every corner of every small town, and so swift and total has its spread been that the Irish are now some of the biggest users in the world. But to unravel how a small island like ours on the edge of Europe ended up such a big player in the major cocaine leagues, we must follow the white supply lines back to the beginning. We must follow the routes it has taken as it travels across the globe. And most importantly, we need to follow the cowboys who put us on the map. So join me, Nicola Talent, for my new live show, Cocaine Cowboys, the story of Ireland's love affair with Colombia's biggest export. Limited tickets now available for February 10th at the Lime Tree Theatre in Limerick, February 15th in Cork's Everyman, and at Dublin's 3 Olympia on Sunday, February 18th. Tickets available at venues or on mcd.ie. So the gunman in the Christmas Eve steakhouse shooting and stabbing Tristan Sherry was buried today. The funeral appears to have passed off so far, at least without incident, although there was a heavy Garda presence.
Yeah, there absolutely was a extremely heavy presence, and I think as a funeral, it was much more muted than some of the other funerals we've seen in recent times. I think that's an indication of the level of threat. What we're hearing is that some people were, because of the concerns about retaliation and the level of potential violence surrounding this feud, that some people weren't willing to attend, even who would have known Mr. Sherry. So it was a relatively quiet event, but very, very heavily policed. The Tristan Sherry, obviously, it took a number of weeks before his body was returned, probably up to 3 weeks at this stage, even more, which is very unusual in of itself. The tensions remain, obviously, because there's another funeral come up on Saturday afternoon now, the funeral of Jason Hennessy Sr, which there'd be a similar level of policing at it. It's due to be held on Saturday in Corduff. And so those tensions absolutely, definitely remain.
Still, I think people are still so aware, it's still so fresh in everyone's mind, and particularly in the light of, some of the court cases, etc. But, the fate of Noel Duckegg Kerwin, of course, the monk's friend who attended the funeral of Eddie Hutch and who was shot dead in the aftermath of it. There's never been a particular motive exactly, although it was a feud-related shooting, but the only motive anybody seems to have ever come up with was because he attended the funeral and he stood shoulder to shoulder with his friend, the monk.
Yeah,
made him a target.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, this is the certainly that's a level of tension, and then of course you're talking about if you talk about it, it's not a geographical feud. If you want, people from all sides within this conflict in the are living in Finglas, living on top of each other. Presumably have mutual friends, mutual acquaintances. So that can really add to an intensity of it. And you saw that in the Sheriff's Street feud, which occurred about 20 years ago. But because everybody was so interconnected and living in a relatively small area, that really can make these things particularly tense.
People don't get a break from each other, I suppose. And at the same time, to secure it, to kind of, police it, you have to be right in the middle of it nearly, because it's not as if you can sort of put a cordon around any particular area and you're, a rival grouping are trying to come through that cordon. They're all living within what you could cordon is the big problem there. Yeah,
but today was a much more sedate affair than, say, the other two recent burials of people who were shot dead in the Finglas area, James Wheelan, obviously, and Brandon Ledwidge. Both of those funerals are very public events, a lot of motorcycles, a lot of, there was, obviously today, there was some of the same sort of floral tributes. There was, there was a bottle of Grey Goose vodka brought up to the stage. There was floral tributes in the shape of
the altar.
Well, yeah, I mean, brought up anyway to the church. There was...
Where's your religion?
Yeah.
The stage.
Well, the altar, yeah. And there was floral tributes, typical ones you'd see, like there was a yellow Lamborghini done up in flowers, and there was a motorbike. And then you see the more touching tributes for people to their relatives, talking about nephew and dad and stuff like that. But, if you saw the kind of, particularly the James...
Tristan Sherry was a dad.
Tristan Sherry was a dad, as far as we know. Yeah. So there was tributes there left to him. And obviously there was a picture as well at one point of him and members of his family. So it's, look, again, it's deeply sad for those people that have lost, that are his loved ones. And that's a reality.
It was a small enough funeral.
Small enough funeral. If you've seen
remind us about the James Wheelan funeral. That was attended by a huge gathering and there was a film crew.
Yeah, we see there's some of the, in recent times, some of the undertakers, a couple of ones in particular, maybe one in particular, they offer a service where they put on, they offer to put together a very highly produced video of the event. You remember back in the day, and we still get complaints, and all media organisations get them when we cover funerals. People find it invasive, which I think we understand. But certainly in the case of James Wheelan, rather than the media obviously took pictures, but the family paid for this highly produced video. I think it was 45 minutes in total. Which very much in the church, speaking to people, interviewing people. And that happened in James Wheelan's case. James Wheelan was shot dead by a rival gang as part of a feud. In the aftermath of his death, things were very tense in Finglas as well, but you had a lot of these sort of scrambler bikes paying tribute outside the church. You had, a bagpiper, you had all of this going on. Though it's... And
there was a sort of an after event that was also...
There was an after event, and there was a cardboard cutout of James Wheelan made, and you could see people, as part of the video, people were dancing and paying tribute to him. So some of these things, as we've sort of said before, they're to sort of make a show, to make a statement about the person that died. Maybe they believe it's reclaiming it, or also for the friends of the person who's been killed, to show maybe that they're not intimidated or not afraid to stand by their...
Yeah, they're certainly, show is the word for it. They are quite showy, some of these funerals.
Yeah.
Brandon Ledgewitt's funeral, there was some trouble in the aftermath.
There was trouble in the aftermath, and there was also, I suppose, a display beforehand where you could see young fellas going in and out on scrambler bikes, doing tricks.
Along the pavements of
Finglas, obviously knowing that this is going to be covered in the media, covered on social media, generate a bit of attention. In fairness to the Sherry family, that hasn't seemed to have been what they have tried to do with this funeral, and it was a much quieter event. But I think that's indicative, like we've been talking to people obviously on the ground, and you do get the sense that people are in fear. And that people who may have known Tristan Sherry or known his family were very, very wary of attending this event, of being, publicly associating themselves. And that shows, I think, the level of fear, because there's a lot to go in this investigation into the broader circumstances.
It's ironic almost that, Sherry, who was 25, went into that steakhouse on Christmas Eve with murder on his mind, and he was targeting rivals from the Hennessy grouping, which he was once part of, and fallen out. It's ironic that he's buried before the victim that he shot, Jason Hennessy Sr, whose funeral isn't going to happen until Saturday. I'm sure when he went out that day with his mission to kill, he never thought he was going to be the one that ended up dead himself.
No, it's a very exactly. It's such a
Such a crazy
scenario,
wasn't it, really?
scenario. I mean, the funeral of Jason Hennessy Sr., while will be an intense affair. Jason Hennessy Sr. is regarded as a key figure in a organised crime group. Maybe somebody who took a sort of management role, but also somebody who encouraged and mentored other people within that organisation. As we said before, he seems to have become a significant figure in criminality in the latter part of his life. And there has been, you have to say, the guards have done a good job in calming the situation, in keeping watch on that part of North Dublin. And we're thankfully haven't, there
hasn't been the very quick sort of, retaliatory that was expected.
No, and obviously one of the things that really happened in this direct aftermath was there was a lot of social media accounts going up, particularly on TikTok. People were being named, people were being identified, taunts were being made between the two sides, and that again seems to have slowed down.
Those sites been taken down, some of them?
A lot of them are still up actually, but they haven't been added to, I suppose, is the way it is. Again, you see the migration for these kind of threats have gone from Facebook, which it used to be, it then went to Instagram to a degree, but it's now really TikTok is where a lot of them are occurring. And in fact, we had a story on the weekend about how guards are investigating if some of the use of social media directed Tristan Sherry towards the restaurant on the night that not that they were receiving information from within the rival gang, but that Tristan Sherry and his associates were solely monitoring social media. Somebody innocently put up a picture of people enjoying a night out, and they, due to knowing the restaurant, were able to judge that they were in there that evening, and that could have sparked this.
People forget that, if you put up photographs of you in the here and now, you're essentially like pinning your location for anybody who wants to see.
Exactly. And I mean, we've done it ourselves in terms of criminals, and being able to look at the background, look at when the picture was put up, and being able to figure out where they are. And we've seen the elaborate extent some of these kind of anonymous people on Twitter have been able to track stuff that the Kinahans have been up to in Dubai.
Yeah.
Incredible detective work, matching backgrounds with backgrounds on real estate sites to determine locations, and incredible work. So that is another risk, and that's something that the guards are going to look into. But it's look, for Tristan Sherry's family, it's a traumatic day. But nothing, at least some of that tension will have dissipated, I think, within the area once these two funerals have taken place.
Okay, so Saturday, and then when do the guards leave? Let their guard as such down with it, because of course, there is an element whenever people are killed that you just get over the funeral and then deal with the situation, and really maybe that will be the more high risk time.
Yeah, I mean, again, you see the policing of these feuds tends to be sparked by events, doesn't it? And there's just not endless policing resources. That's just the fact of life. I mean, we saw probably with the very height of the Kinnan Hutch feud, you couldn't move in Dublin's inner city for seeing guards and guarded patrols, but it just can't go on forever. And then in the aftermath, what the police need to rely on is intelligence to anticipate things. And you did see that work well.
But it was always as well with that. And I mean, we can only talk about that because, we were able to look back so many years now and see the trends and all the rest of it. But so there's different threat levels, and obviously critical threat level, it would be akin to the threat of terrorism in some European cities. But that threat would increase to critical coming up around anniversaries and things like that as well.
Yeah.
It's sort of almost working hand in hand with the emotions, I suppose, of the people involved. So you have these kind of recognised times, a month's mind and all this sort of stuff. These kind of sort of emotionally drawing dates often can see the threat level increase at the same time.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is.
I mean, it's organised criminals, I suppose, organising retaliation, but at the same time, they're human beings with, huge emotional connections to the victims and then obviously huge emotional feelings against the perpetrators on the rival sides.
Yeah, and they're reactive. I mean, that's the truth of it. I mean, a lot of these things are really reactive and can react to things on social media or somebody bumping into somebody on the ground or any number of things like that.
Exactly.
So that remains even all these years on with the Hutch and Kinahan sides, that there's still recognition that those anniversaries can spark something. So yeah, that'll be the case. But the intelligence, the long-term intelligence, is what, if you look at the attempts on Patsy Hutch's life in particular, although the sort of the raw sort of policing of just having cops on the beat did die off, they had that intelligence over time,
and this grouping wouldn't be as sophisticated.
No, not even near
as what we were dealing with there.
Yeah.
But okay, well look, we'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much, Nicola.
I'm Nicola Tallant and you're watching Crime World, a podcast about criminals, drugs and the underworld in Ireland and across the globe. Make sure you subscribe to our channel and turn on notifications so you can be the first to watch all our latest episodes. You can also listen wherever you get your podcasts.